We don't want that at all.
Just try to keep your hands in your lap if possible.
Thank you.
Clanky jewelry, do I need to take it off? I would never wear my clanky jewelry.
I haven't heard
That one's a big
anything.
one.
It's pretty though. Oh, I like this. I love you more.
Good.
I like that.
Alright, cool. So these cameras cut off at 30 minutes. So I can either just stop them real quick and keep one going and then stop the other one real quick, or I can give you like a sign if you want to like do a hard stop and reset them.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, we can probably do that. We can probably do a hard stop.
Hard stop? Okay. Alright, cool. So just give me 3 seconds of silence so I can get the background noise. Alright, you can start whenever you want.
Hear me? Test. Check, check, check. Hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of Water Around the Table. What's up, what's up, what's up? I am Marley.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Malachi.
You've never met Malachi before, but here he is.
Here he is.
In the flesh. I feel like he's such an anomaly. Like,
Yeah.
is he going to be here? Will he? No.
For sure, for sure.
I'm excited to have you here. Let's toast. Can we toast?
Yes.
Toast.
Absolutely.
Bing, 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 bing. Carefully.
Yep. Right. So a great show.
Do we have the bottle of this one?
We do.
Show that?
Yes. Shouts out to our sponsors at Fitvine. That's right, Fitvine Wine, the wine base for athletes. If you're looking for a healthier choice in wine and you like working out as well, Fitvine is the wine for you. We love our wonderful sponsor and are happy that they keep sponsoring us with lovely stuff like this to enjoy while you enjoy us, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Fitvine. You guys are wonderful. But yes, welcome to another episode of Wine Around the Table. Oh my goodness. Last week, wow.
It's like,
Last
it's been a couple
month.
weeks.
Last
month
episode.
Yes.
was interesting. Kind of touch base on religion a little in the Black History Month. That will air in June, so you didn't say that in February. Alright, I'm done being awkward. But this episode is touching more on the whole aspect of religion versus spirituality. Got the evil
Very fitting.
people, not just kidding. But no, I think there's a lot of controversy with people tapping into spirituality now. I just see that. Like even with this, like wearing the evil eye or, you know, burning sage or, you know, all of that, you know, the spiritual practices is now considered, on a religious sense, it's considered compromising. And I just feel like it shouldn't be. I feel like they're two kind of separate entities, and whichever you choose, there's no right or wrong way to go about things. I feel like if your ultimate goal is to connect to a higher being, then it shouldn't matter how anybody else does it.
Do you think there's ever an instance where they could intertwine?
I feel like they could. I incorporate both, you know.
Same.
No, my grandma, she's church values, but me also, I'm like, I want to protect my house, so
Sure,
my
yeah.
stage is Belo Santo, so make sure that, you know, I'm protected.
Yeah. I agree. What about you?
I think in a sense, spirituality and religion for a lot of people, it really is the same in terms of where you're trying to go at the end of the day. It's just people use religion as like a lock-in force to say, do this or don't do this, do that, don't do this.
Yeah.
And they gear their own system of how about getting into heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
And they tie that with their religion, whereas the spiritual aspect is just a broader sense of there's just something greater than ourselves. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, both sides say there is something greater. It's just different religions put a specific to it, like whether it be like an Allah, you know, God, Jesus, or the Buddha, or whatever it is, and they stick to that one specific thing. You know what I mean? And so, a lot of times, people, what they do is they go with whatever they grew up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, the funny thing is like, you don't you're not born automatically knowing what you want to do. You're taught what you should do, and then you grow up, and then you do your own research, and you do your own findings, and you know what I mean, you discover your own thing, and then you decide on your own. Before a lot of people who are like brought into a religion, their families are kind of just like, nah, this is it, and that's it.
Exactly.
It's this,
exactly.
and everybody else is just
And you
tripping.
are wrong for
Right.
anything
You know what I mean?
else. Yeah.
So I think that in turn scares people even sometimes into finding out their own path. You know what I mean? And so it's like now you're fighting for something that you really don't understand.
Right.
Not that it's wrong, it's just you don't understand because you're just going along with whatever you're told.
And you just kind of follow that in suit. But like you said, there's
Yeah.
different roads. Everyone's got their own way, you know, going up into the afterlife.
Mhm.
Right.
But
right.
so I
Mhm.
don't think there's necessarily one right or wrong way. I feel like, you know, there's people that are very extreme with
Mhm.
religion.
Mhm.
And, you know, they're like, you know, if you don't do it this way, you're not going here. But I think there's several different ways you can get there, whether you know, like no matter what you believe in.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, for me, I just don't like because I feel like everything kind of has a negative connotation. The spirituality has a negative connotation because people feel like it borderlines, you know, something demonic, and I don't think there's like a clear understanding of it. And I think, especially sometimes in the Black community, there's a lot of that demonizing for spiritual practices, not even realizing that our ancestors practiced those spiritual practices before we were even brought
Mhm.
here, you know, to
Yeah.
America. And then, you know, I look at Christianity and everything, and that's really big with certain communities, the Black community. And I feel like it's something we were kind of taught
Mhm.
coming to America, more so than this is our spiritual background, or this is our religious background.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's a whole controversy there, and then there's a controversy with, you know, kind of the haranguing of like, you have to do it this way
Mhm.
and like this, or you're not a good person. And I think that you shouldn't be demonized if there's certain things that you want to question about religion, because
Right.
there's certain things in the Bible that are,
You
you
should
know,
question. Yeah,
You
it's
should
been
question.
written years and years and years ago. Things have
Mhm.
changed, you know, especially how it's written.
Exactly.
Do you think over time, like I guess over the past, you know, decade or so, do you think that that negative connotation has gone away at all, or I mean, getting worse or better?
I think that it's,
Like more people opening up to spirituality, or do you think it's being more closed off?
I think both are growing, right?
Yeah.
I think there's this awakeness with like, okay, I'm going to be spiritual. And then I think with that awakeness, there's people who are religious saying, okay, we're going to, you know, hold on more to our religion because all of these people seem to be going away
Mhm.
from it, supposedly. Even though, you know, I still hold Christian values, you know, I still, there's a lot of stuff out of the Bible that I'm like, those are values and principles that I feel like everybody should hold with life. It is like a guideline for life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't believe in demonizing a person for, you know, not believing in certain things, or being a good person, but there are certain sexuality or, you know, certain, you know,
Yeah.
things like that, and saying, oh, you're going to go to hell for this. I just, you know.
No, 100%.
Being open to spirituality, I think this is probably the biggest wave of that we've probably seen in history.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because there are more people who are exploring different avenues of life now
Yeah.
more than ever, and there's more things being talked about, because you got to remember, like back when our parents were younger and then their parents, it was a lot of things were more closed off, you know, even especially sexuality. Right?
Yes, yes.
Especially when it comes to, you know, the communities of transgenders or people just being gay. Like, this is the most open that the world has been
yeah.
to
Yes,
it, even
most
whether it be
accepting.
forcefully or not.
Right.
But
And
part of
people
that
are
is
freaky.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, and part of that is because each generation is being more outspoken about it. So, of course, that ties into your religious beliefs, the spirituality beliefs, and with that, people are doing more research into it now because, again, back our parents used to, you know, especially Christians,
Yeah.
they were taught don't question God.
Correct. Yeah, it was
Right?
just you followed what
You
everyone
don't
else
question
did.
it.
Question.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had questions.
Yeah.
But when you're taught it's not right to question, you kind of shut it up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But now with this newer generation, we're just like, no, we have questions and we're gonna ask. If you can't answer it, it is what it is. I'm gonna find
Yeah.
out on my own.
Exactly.
So there are different things being explored. There's different religions being, coming about too. And I feel like I'm actually proud of the fact that more people are taking steps out to find their own journey, their own path, to question things because, we were given the ability to ask questions and learn.
Yeah.
You can't learn if you don't ask questions.
Exactly.
So if to me, that was one thing that I always had a question about. Like, if God gave us that, He said, I want you to learn, and you have to ask questions to learn, why not ask questions about everything around the whole
Yes.
board?
Exactly.
You got to know that that's coming, right?
Right.
You got to know that's coming. So, I'm proud of our people, our generation that is actually
Asking
exploring
questions.
things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just things, like, you know what I mean? It's important. So much is out there,
And I don't think it's a bad thing to question it. I don't think it's a bad thing to say,
Mm.
hey, the Bible was written by who?
Right.
King
Yeah.
James.
Well,
He said this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This is what he said the Bible
Right.
says.
Or understanding the deeper meaning of each story in the Bible.
Right.
Because
right.
over years, it's like different scriptures, different writings, and
Mhm.
it's been rewritten several times.
And it's not even the same verse,
Right.
You look at how it's rewritten for the 14th time. So it's like, it's okay to, I think, say, hey, is this, something symbolic, or is this something that
Literal.
was perspective, right? Or is this,
Yeah.
is this just, did this man add this in here? You know what I mean? I don't think that's a bad thing to say or to ask,
No,
For
completely.
sure. For sure. I mean, you got to think about the fact that people can't sit. We can't take 10 people in this room, right? And whisper. You know the game telephone?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was
Right?
just thinking about that.
So if you can't even get from from the start of the line to the end of the line with only 10 people and relay the same exact message of how it started, how you think
Thousands
people
of
managed to
years.
do that through thousands of years?
Yeah.
Right.
That it doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They weren't
Right.
any better at it then than we are now. Like, people skew things really to their own benefit.
Mhm.
If it works for you, that's what we're gonna rock with.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Just
think about it. Beyonce has her own cult following. You know what I mean? Like, there's people who literally worship her.
Yeah.
Literally worship her, right?
That's
She
That's
has.
crazy.
She has.
She's a human being. And
Right, right.
Right. There's a church. There's like a small church that's dedicated to her and her movement. Right. So. You think out of all these years, the Bibles and these books that are written are all gonna just be
Right.
accurate?
I've gotta touch on this. The verse, the man shall not lay with man, man shall not lay with boy, and that is like the original text. It's condemning pedophilia and not homosexuality, and I just think that it's terrible that people of different sexual orientations have been harangued and having that thrown at them,
Yeah.
as not only a means of control but fear, because I feel like that's fear mongering to be like, oh, okay, it's in here, when in all actuality it's condemning something that should be more talked about. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people getting away with pedophilia and all of that, and kids getting kidnapped and sold and all of that. You always hear about that, and it's like that there needs to be more of like an advocacy of that, of like, hey, you are going to the hot place
Yes.
for taking a little kid, okay?
Well, you've heard about the Mall of Georgia. That's like one of the biggest hot spots for kidnapping
That's
of like
so
women and
crazy.
children. And just hearing about that, because it's so local. It's
yeah,
right
it's
there.
right there.
And
It's
so
scary.
in the open, and it's like, I went to a Krav Maga class, and they were talking about different areas, and that was one of the number one.
Wow. And see, then we have all these laws against all of this other stuff, but we
Mhm.
don't have enough of like, hey, there should be a law of like, if I see a white van in the parking lot, a cop is going up to it. No,
Right.
for
Then
real.
they really got to question
And on
why.
that, right, and on that religious tip, there are religions who do those things like kidnap kids or sacrifice kids stuff for their religion. So, why is that okay?
Well,
Right.
and then the fact that it's like, almost like a joke in some instances of how they have this running joke about, oh, the priest and blah blah blah. And I was like, that's not funny.
No.
That is really, that really happens.
Mhm.
And it's like we say, oh yeah, it's going on, but it's like, what are we doing to stop that? We're not doing, these people are being traumatized.
Mhm.
There needs to be an awareness of that. There needs to be condemning of that, not condemning of something that was mistaken, and written in the Bible.
No, absolutely. And, the Bible, it was written so long ago, and things have changed, people have spoken, there's been a lot of things and reasons for it to change. So even if that's what they had meant or how it was written that long ago, now is the time where it's like, hey, this is the, true meaning of what this is.
Exactly. And I think that, honestly, people will be more understanding and open to that. Like the
Yeah.
symbolism of any of, what has happened in the Bible. And,
Correct.
For principles like, there's favorite scriptures that I absolutely adore in the Bible. The blessed are those who are thou, like, or are those who are. All of those, that whole scripture, I think it's Peter. But I love all of those because I feel like that is true for certain people. If you act this way, this is how life will be, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, regardless whether it be like the Bible or the Quran, or I think that you're supposed to take just the lessons from it. You know what I mean? The general teachings of it, and the general, I guess, guidelines of certain ways of like morals and things
Right.
like that in terms of, your way of living from there, and everything else you can decipher for yourself. But you don't have to be like, okay, it's only this way and that's
Right.
it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
it's so-
coexisting.
yeah,
You want to
yeah.
learn how to coexist, but also be a good person.
Right, because you can be Buddhist and a good person. You
Yes.
can be Muslim and a great person.
And in the
a
same
Christian
room
and a good
with
per-
other people
You
that
can.
are of different walks of
Right,
life.
right, and
Exactly.
it's so funny
Yeah,
how everyone
that's
is so like they still want to know where you stand, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna
What is-
change something. You know what I mean? It's like if we
But
said,
it will.
and that's
Once
Yeah.
you answer that,
But that's-
it does.
that's
It
the
changes
crazy
the
thing.
dynamic, which is
Yeah.
it is.
that's the crazy thing. Like we could spend 2 hours together, laugh, joke, have a great time, great vibes, and then soon as somebody goes, well, I'm this and that and that, then you're just like, oh man. Like that's why just like throughout history there were a lot of people, some people like this now. A lot of religious families will say you can only marry someone who is the same religion.
Yes.
Right.
It's
And
still
it's
like that
but
in
your
many
heart,
countries.
but your heart, yeah.
Yeah.
But your heart is your heart. Like if you're
Right.
still, you know what I mean. Like that shouldn't change anything. You know what I mean. Like
Exactly.
if you're Buddhist, I'm Christian. Like if I love you, I love you. I don't love you because of how you see, religion. I love you because of who you are, and my heart is my heart, and yours is yours. So that shouldn't be a defining, dividing factor between two people or masses of people, which is crazy.
Exactly.
I was on set.
Absolutely.
I was on set, right? And I was sitting next to a couple of people, and it was a room full of people, right? And everybody was kind of talking. Everybody had their own little groups and everything, right? And they just having a conversation. And somebody just threw out. She was like, "Hey, Malachi, are you Christian?" And it wasn't super loud, but it was
It was
loud enough. But it really wasn't. But the way that the entire room just got quiet, it was like.
And waiting for your
Look,
answer.
I mean, people was on the phone. They just put down the phone for a second, and
Wow.
it was really a funny moment. Because before I can even say anything, it's just like everything got silent. Everybody looked around, and everyone bust out laughing. Like, because it was like the fact that subconsciously, it's like you want to know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
What's
for
the
some people,
urgency?
it may not change anything, but it's just like, oh yeah. Well,
Just
what
the
you about to say?
Right.
Right.
I wanna hear what you got to. It was just hilarious, right? But I was like, I know I'm spiritual, and this and that, and everyone, people like, okay. But just that moment was just amazing how people, they hear that, it's like a trigger, and they're like,
But it's
Right.
crazy how quickly people can divide too. Like
Yeah.
say you said
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
answer
yeah, yeah.
and then people
Somebody
are like,
didn't agree.
they're like, I don't agree. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this way. But it does that with
Mhm.
like a lot of different topics. Like if you think of politics, you think about lifestyles. Like
Yeah.
people will immediately try to divide just to be in their own, enclosure.
Right,
that
Right.
they're comfortable
Right.
with.
Exactly. And I think just to have an opposition to further justify their beliefs or
Mhm.
their, values and stuff, to say, oh, okay, well, this, you should follow this because they do this and that's bad,
Mhm.
you know? So I've never understood that, but you know, I've always felt like everybody can coexist.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you practice, you know, Buddha or, you know, Allah, all of that, that's on you. That's fine.
Yeah, I feel like your relationship to, you know, your God or your, you know, whatever your higher power is, that's between you and them. That's, you know, no one else's
Has nothing to do-
business necessarily.
Exactly. That's something that I've always felt was uncomfortable too, is like, God told me, like, okay, let's tread lightly, because God
Yes.
talks to me also directly.
Yes.
So I can tell you one thing, but I also talk to him. So it's like, I don't know, people have that sense of like,
Especially with, I feel like
You
if they're
know.
from the older crowd. Like
Yeah.
I met this one woman, she was very nice, and when I first met her, very sweet, but then she was going off, she's like, God told me that you need to do this, and I was like, no ma'am, that is not what he told me, that is not where I stand. Like,
Right.
that if, you know, you can't assume what I believe in or what I'm doing, but don't, you know, put
when
that
it's
on
when
to
it's
me.
encouraging.
Yes, if it's encouraging,
different.
yes, but if, you
Yeah.
know, if someone says like what you're doing is wrong because of what
Yeah.
they think or what they've had like their relationship
They're
with,
subconscious, and you can
Yeah.
tell. You can tell you're projecting your own beliefs, and then you're using religion to justify it. And it's
Right.
like, I don't feel like that's right. You can't.
Correct.
You're not gonna make me feel bad and then go, well, God told me that. No.
you can't use
He'll
that
tell
as an
me.
excuse.
He'll
Yeah.
tell me, and when he does, that's
That's
when I
us.
will listen.
Yes.
Yeah. That's our own relationship. Like, you can't tell me my relationship with God. But yeah, even when you see somebody going down a wrong path, if God told you to tell them something, chances are God told you to tell them something encouraging, like, hey, keep going, you got this, you know.
There are better
I
days.
know, there are better days. Talk to God. He wants to talk to you. Something like that. Not, you need to do this, or you're gonna,
No. And regardless what shoes you're wearing, everyone has bad days. Everyone's got, you know.
But see, the crazy
Wake up.
thing is by you telling me what I should or shouldn't do, right, or I won't make it into heaven,
Right.
you won't make it there then, because thou should not judge, right?
Right,
Right.
yeah, that.
So by you being that way, you're telling me already you ain't gonna be there either.
And they're judging you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. You're judging me, so you're not gonna go to heaven
You
either.
can't. You
That would've been
can't
such a
pick
good
and
rebuttal.
choose.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
I see you
we
in
can't pick
heaven.
and choose
Yeah.
which verses
Yeah.
we want to follow and which verses we
Right,
want to
right.
be hypocritical on. They list all the sins.
No
Yeah.
sin is greater
Thou
than the
shalt
other.
not. No
Right.
sin is greater than the other. Thou shalt not. There's several of them.
Mhm.
I'm 3,000% sure that everybody has broken at least one of them. So
We're not
we're here.
perfect. We are human. We are here. You know,
And
we're
if somebody
learning.
hasn't, I want to meet you
Yes.
to tell you that you're
Come on the
doing
show next
commandment,
time.
breaking commandment. Which one? Now, lie. The first one.
Yeah. It's amazing, man. But it is amazing how it's so dividing in, you know, every aspect, and how it keeps people from being happy, you know, with each
Yeah.
other at the end of the day. I was reading up on something. There was a couple back in the early 1900s. The guy's family was one religion and the girl's family was another. But, you know, they were together. Families didn't agree, didn't like it, or whatever, so it was always a rift. And his family had their own cemetery, right? Where they, they whatever their religion was, they had their own cemetery. So what happened was, when both of the people, the couple, they died, when they passed away, they had a statue made of them. Their tombstones were over top of the wall that divided the cemetery, and they had their hands, a statue of their hands reaching out, holding each other. It's there to this day.
Wow.
So she's on one side of the wall, he's on the other, and their hands are touching each other, holding each other. Since they couldn't be buried together in the cemetery because of their religion, they're holding each other right over that wall.
That's actually beautiful.
Yeah,
I would
it's
love to
crazy,
just
right?
go see that, because now that you've
It
given the backstory
I thought,
of
look,
that.
It's
right.
really
That's so beautiful.
We gotta go check that
Yeah.
out. I thought it was gonna go scary.
I know. I was like, wandering
I was
around the
like,
table
this
of field
is
trip.
Yeah. No, it
Oh no, we gotta go. We gotta
But
go.
it shows, you know, like the courage that you have to say it doesn't matter. You know, again, I know your heart, you know mine, and we're gonna do this regardless, because at the end of the day, we're probably gonna end up in the same place. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't matter.
That's beautiful that the families were part of that too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, building that sculpture like over the.
Well, somebody
Yeah,
built it. I don't know.
That's
if
what I
it was
mean, it's
different,
like-
but yeah.
Yeah, someone cares
did it.
about
Somebody
the.
cared enough.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
said, you know what? All right, this is what you want to do. Well, we got you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Aw.
it kind of shows you not everybody is,
That's cute.
you know, the same. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
And that also shows that they fought for love so hard.
So hard.
Because it's
Right.
not accepted.
right.
Still to this day,
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of people where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, they're not the religion, we don't want you marrying them.
Mhm.
But it's
Right.
like, wait, they fought it and they
Mhm.
made it, and
So
Even in
question.
death.
So question.
Yes.
So if you got with somebody, you guys fall in love, it's like this is the one, da da da. Then you have the religious discussion, and they're like, hey, I want you to
Convert.
yeah.
I.
Because I've seen that happen.
I've seen
I have-
it, and
yes,
yes,
it
and
happens a lot.
Like
It happens
Oh, yeah.
often,
I ex
actually.
his parents, they do it.
I mean, I would
Mhm.
support anyone if that's what they truly believed in. If they truly believed in converting, and you know, if they have knowledge of that way, sure. I don't think it's not something I could do because I'm very strong about my beliefs and you know how my way of life is. I wouldn't mind.
Even with the love of life, you got the ring
Oh,
right
if
there.
he's my love of my life, I still wouldn't convert, but I would live my beliefs going one way. He could live going the other way.
Right.
But
Held the
he'd have
hands
to be
out like the
okay.
open
Yeah, I
ring.
know. I was
That's so
like, here we
terrible.
go.
Right.
Yeah, I hope he
That's
proposes with
the
some
thing.
of this stuff. It's fine. No, I don't know. I haven't been in that situation yet, but I think it would be definitely a hard conversation, but definitely needed. I feel like, and especially.
What if it happened in the middle of the marriage? Like he decides, like, hey, I've done some soul searching. This is where I'm at right now.
Oh, I'd be okay
really
with
need you.
whatever my partner, if he decided, whatever religion, his pathway to.
Just not asking you.
Just not asking me. I can't change for somebody, but if he's fitting in one way, good for him. As long as our love doesn't change for each other, then.
I love that, girl. I can't change. But
Yeah,
No, I will not change for anybody. I'm the same person I've always been.
Sometimes it does though. Sometimes their love. Well, love is supposed to be unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the way they move, he might be like, well, again, if it happens in the middle where he's found a different, awakening, and he's like, this is what I want us to do because this is what I'm going to do. He might decide, well, if you don't, I can't no longer be with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that would be tough.
I was like, that would be pressuring.
That would be
very
tough. But like my thing is this: in the very beginning, before we even get to a point where you're proposing and we're tied in and we falling in love, you got to know where I stand so that way there's not an issue.
Right, like you want to know their
You know
future,
what I mean?
like not just their future, like 20 years, 30 years, but their
Mhm.
afterlife future. Like where do they see themselves? How they're gonna, continue?
Yeah, but I don't even want to get into something if it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, for
like
sure.
like if
Yeah.
we have this conversation, and then a lot of times too, sometimes it's not the people involved, it's their families around it who is pressuring them like, oh, she's not this.
So do you
I
feel
don't
like
know.
that in itself is generational?
Oh,
Like all
yeah,
those
yeah,
older
yeah.
generations putting that pressure on, and here we have the younger generations again questioning things, going,
I think it's
I want to do it like this.
definitely less accepted by older generations.
Yeah.
For sure.
Luckily, like both my parents, they're two different religions, two different beliefs. So growing up, I went to two different establishments.
Oh,
But
So how does that work for them? How do they move in the household?
So, I mean, they were married for 20-something years, but they
Uh-huh.
ended up divorcing completely unrelated to religion.
Okay.
But, one lived in the north, one lived in the south. Very
Okay.
civil, still civil
Yeah.
to this day, still best friends. But, I mean, as far as how, like, the kids, because there's a lot of us,
Yeah.
how, like, we were raised was, we had certain ones for Friday, Saturday, and one for Sunday, and to them, it was you choose what you guys want.
Awesome.
Like, wherever you guys stand,
Awesome.
whatever you believe in, you're going to develop it on your own. There was no pressure in the household. It was like, hey, we're going to check out these different churches or this different spirituality, practices. Whatever you guys want to combine or do, go ahead.
Good. So
So-
they never had a tug of war battle of you.
Never.
That's
It was
awesome.
a very lucky household, I'd say, because I've seen it go, negative also.
Right.
I love that. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I love you guys.